I said, no praying in this damn school. Do you hear me? No God in my hallways.
That was the moment everything changed. Before we dive into the full story, if you believe faith still matters 7 in the darkest places, don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay with us till the end. Because what happens next will shock you, break you, and maybe heal something inside you. Now, let's go back to the beginning. It was a Monday morning like any other, except that by noon, the internet would be on fire, hashtags would rage, and the name Mark Dawson would be plastered across national news. But at 7:34 a.m., Principal Dawson was calm, composed, and already irritated. His shoes clicked sharply against the polished linoleum floors of Jefferson High School as he made his rounds like a general surveying a battlefield. The walls were plastered with motivational posters, college banners, and a single offending piece of paper taped beside locker 307, a handwritten quote from Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Dawson stopped cold. His nostrils flared. What is this? He muttered, yanking the paper from the wall as if it were radioactive. A sophomore named Jaden, clutching his backpack, froze in place. I put that up, sir. It's just something that helps me stay focused before tests, he said, voice trembling. Dawson stared at him like he'd confessed to a crime. This is a public school. We don't allow preaching on the walls. Remove anything else like this, or I'll suspend you for insubordination. He crumpled the verse and shoved it in his pocket. No prayer, no verses, no God. He walked away with the stiff posture of someone convinced they were saving the world from ignorance. Students in the hallway whispered. Jaden stood in stunned silence, clutching his Bible tighter than ever. And someone, somewhere down the corridor, began recording on their phone. By second period, Dawson had confiscated 3 more religious items: a rosary, a small Bible on a desk, and a prayer card inside a locker. Each time, he delivered the same icy warning. This is a school, not a sanctuary. But things escalated when he walked past room 214, the art class. There, a girl had painted a beautiful canvas with a cross and the words, "Faith over fear." Dawson lost it. He stormed in mid-class. Who approved this? The art teacher, Ms. Harris, tried to interject. It was part of a free expression project, Principal Dawson. He ignored her, stormed to the front, and ripped the canvas off the wall. We are not a church. Take this down or I will pull funding for your entire program. Gasps, silence, stunned faces. One girl began to cry. The tension was electric. It wasn't just about a painting anymore. It was about power, control, fear, and pride. By lunch, 5 students had been reprimanded, and the once vibrant hallway felt like a war zone of silence. The final blow came when Dawson walked into the cafeteria and saw a group of students holding hands in prayer before their meal. His voice thundered, "Enough! I said no prayer." Phones went up, cameras rolled. He pointed directly at the group. "I'm calling your parents. You're in direct violation of school policy." What policy? There was no written ban, just his will, his word, his war. By the time the final bell rang, a 15-second video clip had already amassed 0 views. It showed Dawson shouting, students flinching, and the haunting silence that followed. By nightfall, hashtags were trending. Let them pray. Fire Dawson. Faith is not a crime. But Dawson? He sat in his office, sipping coffee with a satisfied smirk. I've cleaned up the mess, he said to himself. He had no idea what was coming next. To understand why Mark Dawson hated prayer, you had to go back decadesto, a time when he was just a boy named Marky, sitting on a hospital bench with knees shaking and hands clasped too tightly. He was 10. His mother was dying. He prayed, every night, every tear, every moment. Please, God, don't take her. I'll be good. I'll never ask for anything again. Please. But God, as far as Mark could tell, wasn't listening. His mother died on a Tuesday morning, while he was at school. The nurse said it was peaceful. Mark said, It was betrayal. At her funeral, the pastor talked about God's plan. Mark's fists clenched. What kind of plan was this? He stopped praying that day. By 12, he stopped believing. By 16, he started mocking. By college, he made it a mission. I will never let faith blind people the way it blinded me. He studied psychology, then education. He rose quickly in the ranks, sharp, driven, never distracted by faith or superstition. At 32, he became the youngest principal in district history. At 34, he gave a TEDx talk titled, "Faith is not a virtue. Reason is." It went viral. He became a darling of secular educators. But beneath the polished veneer, Mark was still a wounded boy furious at a God he claimed not to believe in. And when he walked Jefferson High's halls, he saw reminders of the faith that failed him. A student reading a Bible on the bench where he once wept. A girl whispering prayers in a corner like he once did. It wasn't just annoyance. It was personal. So when he ripped that verse off the locker wall, it wasn't just about rules. It was revenge. He told himself he was protecting students from religious propaganda. But deep down, he was protecting himself from the ghost of a little boy who still missed his mother and still wondered, why? By 6:00 p.m. that evening, the video had surpassed 1.2 million views. It was just 15 seconds long. Principal Mark Dawson caught mid-shout, pointing furiously at a group of teenagers who had bowed their heads in silent prayer before lunch. The caption read, "Public school bans prayer principal berates kids for believing." By 6:10 p.m., "Let Them Pray" was trending on X in all 50 states. By 7:00 p.m., Jefferson High's website crashed from traffic. Christian influencers jumped in. Pastor Daniel from Texas made a fiery live stream. Is this what America's become? You can vape in the bathroom, wear devil horns to prom, but can't bow your head for grace? This is not neutrality, it's oppression. By 8:00 p.m., major outlets picked it up. Fox News called it another attack on American values. CNN invited legal experts. TikTok teens reenacted the prayer scene with dramatic background music. Even the Babylon Bee ran a headline. Principal thinks God is offensive, but not porn in library. The school board was flooded with emails. Parents showed up the next morning in protest. A mother shouted through tears, "My son came home crying, asking if loving God was illegal now." Dawson watched from his office window. He clenched his jaw. "They're overreacting," he muttered. But deep down, the walls were cracking. At 10:30 a.m. the next day, a group of students organized a silent prayer walk. Over 200 kids walked through campus with duct tape over their mouths and Bibles in hand. At the front was Jadenthi, same boy Dawson had scolded. He held a sign, "My faith is not a crime." News helicopters circled overhead. The district superintendent called Mark. "We need a statement. You're making us look like fascists." Mark refused. "I'm not backing down. If we allow prayer, what's next? Exorcisms? Snake handlers?" But cracks had formed. A student-led petition hit 400, 0 signatures in 36 hours. A local church offered to host a freedom rally. Over 1,000 people showed up with candles, crosses, and signs that read, "Prayer is a right, not a privilege." The next morning, when Mark arrived at school, someone had written in bold chalk outside the main doors. Even Saul changed. He stepped over it, but he felt it. The world was turning, and it was turning against him. The protests were growing. Mark's inbox was on fire. The school board had scheduled an emergency meeting. The world outside was falling apart. But the real earthquake was about to strike at home. It happened on a Thursday. The sky was overcast, the kind of gray that made the world feel muted and heavy. Mark hadn't slept. He had just come from a tense interview with a local reporter where he had doubled down on his position. No prayer. No exceptions. This is not a place for religion. At 4:17 p.m., his phone rang. It was Lily's coach. Mark answered with a sigh. What now? But the voice on the other end wasn't casual. It was cracked, panicked. Mr. Dawson, it's Lily. She collapsed during soccer practice. She's unresponsive. They're rushing her to the ER. For the first time in weeks, Mark couldn't speak. He raced to the hospital, traffic blurring past in flashes of red and gray. His mind was blank, his breath shallow. He barged into the ER like a man possessed. Lily Dawson, where is she? A nurse pointed. Room 3. We're still stabilizing her. Mark pushed past them. What he saw stopped his heart. His daughter, his Lily, only 14. Wires running from her chest, oxygen mask over her face. A team of doctors worked feverishly. A machine beeped, another flatlined. A nurse shouted something about her pulse. Mark stood frozen. The world spun. This wasn't a protest. This wasn't a video clip. This was his child. He whispered, "No, not her, please, not her." They moved her to the ICU. Mark wasn't allowed inside. He sat alone in a pale blue hallway that smelled like antiseptic and sorrow. Every beep from beyond the doors was a gunshot in his chest. Hours passed. He didn't move, didn't cry, didn't speak. He just stared. At 8:47 p.m., the doctor came out. A woman in her 40s, eyes tired but kind. "She's stable for now," she said. "We don't know what caused it yet. It might be neurological. We need to run more scans." Mark nodded robotically. "Can I see her?" "Just for a minute. She's not awake." He stepped into the ICU. There she was, his little miracle, now silent. He touched her hand. It was cold. And in that moment, something inside him broke. He dropped to his knees. The man who banned prayer began to pray. The ICU room was silent. The machines hummed. Lily's chest rose and fell, aided by a ventilator that hissed in rhythm. Mark stood at her bedside, eyes bloodshot, suit wrinkled, hands trembling. He hadn't prayed in over 20 years. But now, he was on the floor, hands clasped like a beggar. "I don't even know how to do this," he whispered. "I don't believe in you. I don't. But she does. And she's good. Better than me. So if you're there, if you're listening, just please." He broke. The words choked in his throat. The pride that had built walls inside him for decades collapsed like a house of cards. Mark sobbed. Ugly, broken sobs that racked his body. The kind of crying that comes from deep in the soul, from the place where logic no longer matters. He sat there for hours, sometimes whispering, sometimes just breathing. He told Lily about the day she was born, about the first time she said "Dad," about her science fair, her dreams to visit Italy. "I never told you I was proud," he whispered, stroking her hair, "but I am. You're everything I never had the courage to be." He paused, then looked upward. "I don't care about religion, or rules, or church, but if you love her, then prove it. I'll do anything, I swear it. Just don't take her." The room didn't reply. No voice, no booming thunder, just silence. And yet, it felt full, as if something unseen had entered. Something gentle, real, holy. Mark didn't know what he felt, but he knew he wasn't alone. It was past midnight when the knock came. Mark was asleep in a chair beside Lily's bed, his body curled awkwardly, a hospital blanket draped over his shoulders. His eyes opened groggily at the sound. A quiet voice said, "Excuse me, are you Mr. Dawson?" He turned to see a woman in her late 50s, dressed in a modest gray habit. Her eyes were soft but clear, her smile kind but firm. "I'm Sister Abigail. I teach part-time at St. Teresa's Parish. Your daughter, she used to come to my Bible class after school." Mark straightened. "Lily? Bible class?" He blinked. That didn't sound like his daughter. She was smart, science-minded, Not the religious type. She came quietly, Sister Abigail said, smiling gently. Never told many people, but every Thursday she was there asking questions, reading scripture, and always ways praying. Mark stared at the nun, processing. She loved theology, Sister Abigail continued, but most of all, she loved you. Mark's throat tightened. What do you mean? One day after class, she stayed behind. She seemed troubled, and she asked me, Sister, can I pray for my dad? He says he doesn't believe, but I think he's angry more than anything. Mark froze. She told me, he's not a bad man, he just lost something. I don't want him to feel alone. Sister Abigail looked down. So we prayed for you. Every week, quietly, faithfully. Mark sat down, stunned. His world shifted again. Lily, his little scientist, his rational thinker, had a secret prayer life, and she had used it to intercede for him. She said you used to smile more, Sister Abigail added, before your wife passed. Mark's eyes flooded. He turned away, hiding his face in his hands. I lost her, he choked out, and I lost myself. I thought if I stayed strong, cold, even, I could keep Lily safe. You tried to protect her from the world, Sister Abigail said gently. But you forgot that even the strongest walls can't keep out sorrow. Only love can. It was 5:16 a.m. The hospital was still in shadow, lit only by soft fluorescent lights. Mark hadn't moved all night. He sat by Lily's bed, still holding her small hand in his own. Sister Abigail had stayed until midnight, then gently excused herself with a soft blessing. God is closer than you think, Mr. Dawson, even in silence. Now, only the hum of machines filled the room. Then, a twitch. Mark blinked. He leaned forward. Lily's fingers moved. He stood. Lily? He whispered, afraid to hope. Her eyelids fluttered. A soft groan escaped her lips. The heart monitor picked up speed. The nurse's call light blinked. Mark pressed the red button, yelling, She's moving! She's moving! A flurry of white coats burst in. Doctors, nurses. Pulse is climbing. She's breathing on her own. Start neurological checks. But Mark only saw one thing. His daughter opening her eyes. She squinted at the ceiling, dazed, confused. Then she turned her head and saw him. Her lips parted. A faint whisper. Dad? Mark dropped to his knees beside the bed. I'm here. I'm right here. She blinked slowly. Then, in the quietest, hoarsest voice, Did you pray? Mark's heart cracked wide open. He couldn't hold it in. He laughed a soft, wet laugh between sobs. I did, he whispered, for the first time since I was your age. He leaned in closer. I asked him not to take you. I said I'd do anything. And maybe he listened. Lily smiled weakly. Then, that's all I needed to hear. She closed her eyes again, this time not from weakness, but peace. Mark buried his head in her blanket, and for the first time since he was 10 years old, he felt held. 3 weeks later, Mark Dawson stood before a crowd of reporters, teachers, students, and parents, this time not as a man in control, but as a man transformed. The press conference was held in the Jefferson High Auditorium, the same room where, weeks ago, he had announced the removal of religious symbols in prayer. Today, he was returning to that stage, but not with a declaration of authority. He came to confess. He stepped up to the podium. No notes, no teleprompter, just a folded piece of paper in his jacket untouched. His voice trembled slightly. Thank you for coming, he began, scanning the crowd. I stand here today not as a principal, but as a father, and I want to tell you the truth. I was wrong, not just in my decision, but in my heart. A hush fell over the crowd. I thought banning prayer would protect our students from division, from discomfort, from pain. But the truth is, I was projecting my own wounds onto them. I silenced prayer because I was angry at a God I didn't want to believe in. His voice cracked. I thought I was strong by building walls. But my daughter taught me something. True strength isn't silence. It's surrender. And sometimes, surrender means believing in something greater than yourself. He paused. A tear rolled down his cheek. I watched my daughter fight for her life, and I prayed desperately, honestly. And she came back. Was it science? Maybe. Was it God? I believe it was both. He looked up. I'm resigning from my position today, not because I was forced, but because I want to step away and start again, this time with humility and with faith. A murmur swept through the audience, but he wasn't done. I also want to apologize publicly to the students I silenced, to the parents I dismissed, to the God I cursed. I was wrong, and I believe now. At that moment, a small figure appeared at the side door. Lily, pale but walking. The crowd gasped. She made her way toward the stage, slowly. Mark turned. His eyes flooded again. She hugged him, tightly, then whispered in his ear, "Now we both believe." Months passed. The media storm faded. But something lingered, something deeper than headlines. Mark Dawson didn't return to Jefferson High. Instead, he moved quietly to a nearby town. No interviews, no book deals, no TEDx talks, just silence and service. He volunteered at a local shelter, helped teens struggling with grief. Sometimes he just listened. Sometimes he shared. He never used the word conversion. He didn't preach. He simply told the truth. I once hated prayer, until I became the one who needed it most. Lily healed. She returned to school, stronger than before, not just in body, but in spirit. She started a small prayer group. At first, it had only 3 students. But it grew. Kids didn't come for dogma. They came for peace, for belonging, for quiet strength in a noisy world. One afternoon, a boy asked her, "Do you think your dad regrets it? You know, banning prayer?" Lily smiled. "My dad doesn't live with regret," she said. "He lives with gratitude." Mark never chased redemption. He lived it. In late December, a local paper wrote a short article, "Former principal now mentor to troubled youth." Most readers skipped it. But in a church not far away, a young girl lit a candle and whispered, "Thank you, God, for answering a prayer I didn't know I'd need." Let them pray. Let them hope. Let them believe, even when the world forgets how.